basically my concept of playing the double bass is that even though the instruments are tuned differently, the left one's tuned a little bit higher than the right one, the function basically sounds the same. So I don't really bother leading with my left foot unless I'm playing a solo of constant eighth notes and soloing over it. But basically what I'll do is always lead with my right foot, and I always imitate what I've done with my hands with my feet. So these exercises get into developing those kinds of techniques that I use in my fills and in my solo. The first one starts out basically just with doing right, left with the hands, and then right, left with the feet. So we have this. Okay, now next, we move on to doing 4 beats with the hands and then 4 beats with the feet. Once again, right, left, and then right, left with the feet. The next step then is to do it in triplets, where you have 3 beats with the hands and then 3 beats with the feet. Once again, feet imitating hands, so you're always going right, and then right, with the feet. So. The next section deals with doing 3 beats with the hand and then 3 beats with the feet, but in 16th notes with a double with the hands and a double with the feet to make it come out right in a bar of 4/4 time. And then finally we have 2 beats with the hands and then 4 beats with the feet. So it's a rhythm that's in a sextuplet. And that sounds like this. Now, in the next section, we actually get into the sort of melodic call and answer thing that I did between my toms and my bass drums. And the rhythm that I've written out here is just a simple quarter note and eighth note rhythm with a couple of flams in it in cut time. And that sounds like this. And then you play that beat and use the same sticking as indicated with the feet. So it's like this. So when you do that slow like that, it's pretty simple, but when you speed it up, it sounds sort of like the things I was doing in my solo, like this. Now, the next section gets a little bit more intricate. It's sort of a 16th note and 8th note figure, and it's written like this. And then with the feet. And it sounds simple at this tempo, but when you speed it up, it sounds like the things I was doing in my solo that are like this. So, basically these are the techniques that I've used to gain what I've got, and I'm sure with a little bit of work you can take them much further than I've taken them.
lot of people ask, how do I practice double bass drum? How did I get into that whole concept of playing double bass drum? I actually treated them as another pair of hands, except they're just a different shape. And they usually have, shoes covering them. But apart from that, I give them the same attitude as my hands, but I allow for the limits of the feet, so I slow everything down. So I play a series of exercises which I would play on the snare drum. Single stroke, double stroke. I try a little bit of triple stroke. I play some paradiddles on the bass drums. And the other thing I do is play rhythms, play a little solo on bass drums. And that really helps to loosen up the feet. It's very important to really find out your limit. I find with bass drum playing, if you're relaxed, you can get to a certain speed. And then if you really tense up and you're sort of on the nerve, you can get it quite quickly. But there's really no control. And if you try to slow it down a little from that quick speed, it's it, you lose it. So it's very interesting actually how pure control over the feet, how slow it can actually be. So there's nothing wrong with practicing very, very slowly. Again, I think it's accuracy, it's giving the notes each a full value, velocity is very important, and also being seated and relaxed. So the first exercise really is just single strokes, very slowly. When I practice, I tend to keep my heels down. I don't really know why. This never happens when I play, when I'm playing for real, except when I play quietly, my heels can drop. But for practicing, for some reason, I prefer to keep my heels on the foot plate. So, just basically, one hit on each drum. And then try it really, really quietly. Single strokes, a little bit faster. The next exercise would be double strokes, 2 on each bass drum. And again, just very relaxed and very slow. A little bit faster. And then occasionally I do attempt 3 strokes on each, like this. And of course, there's the old paradiddles. Again, single paradiddles would be the first one. And a double paradiddle. And a triple paradiddle. and then we can put all three of those together. So you play 2 singles, 2 doubles, and 2 triples. And then you can just play anything that comes into your head.
Playing 2 bass drums can really add another dimension to your playing. Now, I'd like to show you a few different ways that I use them in my soloing, playing beats, and playing fills. Now, generally, when I solo and play fills, I use 3 kinds of techniques. First one is what I call question-answer, copycat, what have you. Play something with your hands, mimic it with your feet, like this. Something along those lines. Another technique I use involves playing around with your hands and then, at random, doubling some of those licks with your feet, like this. Now, a third technique that I use involves a continuous flow of notes, 16ths or triplets between the hands and the feet. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of hand-feet patterns. I want to work with one for the moment. It's the first pattern you probably work with when you're practicing double bass drums. 4-note pattern, 2 hands, 2 feet. Some people call these quads, and I love that word. Okay. Hand, hand, foot, foot. Now, if you notice, I just played at 3 different speeds. That's because when I'm using the 2 bass drums, I often like to switch gears and slow things down and speed them up. Always in time, though. Now, I'm playing both hands on 1 drum, snare drum. I can also do 2 hands anywhere I want, like this. Another thing to do is to put 1 hand on 1 drum, 1 hand on another, like this. It's a totally different sound. Another pattern that I like to use is a 6-note pattern. Either 4 notes in the hands, 2 in the feet, or 2 notes in the hand, 4 in the feet. I'll start with 4 with the hands, 2 with the feet. I'll play them all on 1 drum first. Or I can put 2 notes on a drum. Or I can put 1 note on each drum. So now we'll just play a little bit and put all these three different patterns together. The quads, the triplet or sextuplet patterns, and then these 6-note groupings.
This is the basis of the system of playing I use in my book. I call it the single stroke system. Using it, I play all my bass drum rhythms as if they were part of the single stroke roll led by my main bass drum. Using this single stroke roll as a basis, I can create rhythms by simply removing notes from the roll while playing the remaining notes as if the roll were continuous. I'll always start and come out of every pattern on my main bass drum. Applying this system to 16th notes, my right foot plays all the 8th notes, and my left foot plays between the 8th notes, or on the E's and U's. Besides having a systematic way of playing each rhythm, using this system will give each rhythm a consistent sound, with my right foot on the downbeats and my left foot on the upbeats. I can now use my second bass drum to add to a rhythm that would commonly be played on one bass drum. In this next demonstration, I'm going to play an 8th note rhythm between my main bass drum and my snare. By gradually bringing in my second bass drum, I'll create 16th note rhythms. Notice that my main bass drum will remain the same throughout. In this demonstration, I'm playing a paradiddle and some paradiddle variations over 16th note bass drum rhythms. Practicing mixed sticking patterns over different bass drum rhythms will develop independence between the hands and feet. A popular concept in double bass drumming is breaking up both hands and both feet to form hand-foot combination patterns. In dealing with 16th notes, I can break up the hands and feet in any multiples that will add up to 16. Two good patterns to practice to begin with are breaking up the hands and feet in multiples of 2s and 4s. When playing these patterns, I use the same single-stroke system for my hands and my feet. I lead with my right, and I alternate each stroke as right, left, etc., regardless of whether each stroke is played with the hand or the foot. In using this system, I'll always come out of a pattern on my right hand and my right foot. I can use these patterns as one-bar fills, or I can extend them for longer fills and solos.
As far as beats go, especially if you're just getting started, you want to concentrate on getting a nice, consistent single-stroke roll going. That would be 16ths or triplets. And you might want to work towards that by playing simple hand patterns over it. Maybe quarter note, backbeat on the snare, quarter notes on the cymbal, eighths on the cymbal, offbeat cymbal pattern, paradiddles, because rudiments work really nicely. So that's exactly what I'll do. I'll play a couple measures of each of those. That sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Now some patterns over triplets in the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these are more or less continuous patterns because the bass drum is never letting up. You should also practice breaking up those patterns. Probably call them non-continuous beats. Here's an example of that. 2, 3, 4.
I started playing double bass drum in 1974. The main thing I noticed was the way that the kit instantly became more balanced. With a single kit, I always found that I was a little lopsided. The bass drum was here, snare drum, and it was okay. I didn't really know anything different. But as soon as I put up that second bass drum, the whole kit, the perspective that's exactly what I wanted to do. And apart from 2 years, I think 1975 or 76, I have always played double bass drum. So it's been a long time now, these guys who've been together. That was Outback. The rhythm in this is very similar to Space Boogie, the track I did with Jeff Beck, but we lopped off one of the beats, so it's in 6/4. The main thing about playing a track like this, or like Space Boogie, is pacing. It's a really high energy track. Double bass drums throughout the whole song, well, nearly throughout the whole song. And it's very easy to just blow all your cookies in the first song. And especially if this is put in the early part of the set, you've got to be fit to play the rest of the set after playing this song. So that's one of the things to really look out for when you're playing a high energy track. The other thing, with a double bass drum track like this, it's not necessary to just go like, slamming full out. It's actually better to be a little reserved, because you'll find musically it will overpower everything. So it's best to just reserve it and keep it really, keep the tension there. And leave room for the odd accents leave the dynamic room as well. You'll notice when we get to the solo section, I really just pull back and let Anthony just ride in there to give Ray some space to solo. It's dynamics, but it's also pacing with a track like this.
My right hand's playing a quarter note ride, and my left hand beats 2 and 4 on the snare. The 8th note triplet roll differs from the 16th note roll in that the main bass drum plays on beats 1 and 3, and the second bass drum on beats 2 and 4. The snare and the second bass drum will fall together on beats 2 and 4. If I isolate the main bass drum, it plays 2 quarter note triplets per measure. In each measure, the bass drum plays 6 notes, while the ride plays 4. This is known as a 6 against 4 polyrhythm. By now playing the second bass drum between the notes of the main bass drum, the 8th note triplet roll is formed. Here I'm using 8th note triplets to demonstrate a few ideas for beats, fills, and solos. I can isolate the 16th note triplet and use it to form a figure known as a 4-stroke rough. A common way to play the rough with one bass drum is by playing the triplet with my hands and completing the rough playing the 4th stroke on my bass drum. With 2 bass drums, I can play the triplet with my feet and play the 4th stroke with my hand. In this pattern, I can substitute a 16th note triplet for the 2 16th notes that fall on the and of 3. The triplet forms a 4-stroke rough with the snare beat that follows it. I can combine the 16th note triplet with 16th notes to form hand-foot combination patterns. Since the 16th note triplet takes up a half a beat in 4/4, I can substitute the triplet for 2 16th notes. I can substitute a 16th note triplet for the two 16th notes that start on each downbeat. Here I'll substitute a 16th note triplet for the two 16th notes that start on the and of each beat. I can play a continuous string of 16th notes and at any time substitute a 16th note triplet for two 16th notes. The triplet in each case will form a 4-stroke rough with the hand stroke that follows it.
One of the little tricky things that I think is actually a very good exercise for coordination is back to our dear friend the paradiddle. And I've devised this little exercise which uses paradiddles on the bass drums and paradiddles on the snare drums. Except one is half speed. So for example, the paradiddle on the snare drum will be half the speed to the paradiddles played on the bass drums. And this is a real mind bender, you know. Really gets the coordination going. So we'll start off with the bass drums, and I'll add the paradiddle and the snare drum. And then, of course, the other way around. It really gets the brain going. Another one which I discovered fairly recently is this little exercise, which basically uses 3 beats with one hand being answered in triplet form with 2 beats by each bass drum. So I'll just play it really, really slowly. We've got That's a real awkward one. It's a good one to practice because if you can get around that one, then whichever side of the kit you're on, you can start things with one hand and then to the other. It's endless.